Welcome in, guys. I'm Chio, your host.
Divinely Diamond.
Liza Minnelli.
So we left off with what if what if we never said it out loud, right? What if everything was everything that was happening is really probably just for us in the room? What if nobody knew what was going on in our mind? Like, does it validate it or does it not? So today we're actually going to talk about everybody talks about all the meeting part, right? When you get to know who your soulmate is, but nobody talks about what happens after, like the empty part. What happens when they're gone? What happens when you're not with them? Because twin flames can go both ways, right? They can either bring a side of you that is going to be a challenging side because it's a mirror of yourself, or or you can overcome that and allow you to grow together, right? You both overcome that and allow you guys, it allows us to grow together. So, but what happens when it doesn't work out? When we don't fix our differences, right?
Right.
So, let's talk a little bit about that. What if it felt familiar? The first part we're going to get into is what if it felt like home? What if it felt familiar because it's not just from a past life, but you're recognizing it because you're recognizing an old pattern, not an old soul, but a pattern, like a dynamic that is familiar that we ended up mislabeling it as fate,
That's a good question.
That is a good question. I
That's
can't even
actually
think
really
of an
good.
answer for that.
right?
Yeah. I did that. I don't know. What do you think, Liza? Let's start with you.
Personally, I feel like that can happen, but when I think about like my whole thing with my twin flame, it it's like wait, I stood back and I was like, wait, what are some patterns that I've noticed? I mean, this person's traits felt really familiar, and especially at a really young age, one because it's like we're like we have some of the same values, same traits, even the way we handle or our coping mechanisms, I would say, are very similar. But to think about like patterns, I'm like, I wonder what of those patterns can be, especially with
Maybe,
oh, sorry.
maybe, no, you're fine. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just thinking while you were talking, maybe it has to do with the fact that, like, maybe we enter the connection not knowing until we get like in contact with that person. And then they start not even like saying it out loud to you, like, you've got this going on, this, let me help you. It's more of kind of self realizing it when you're in connection. Maybe it's something to where like you don't know, like say you've got like a anxious attachment problem or something and you come into the connection, that person recognizes it instantly because that's your twin flame. They know how you operate already, right? They point it out and then maybe it's something to where you don't know, you're not aware of, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't know that that was a thing for me. Thanks. And then that's where it kind of, for me, I think if the person is truly home, they work with you. I don't think it's a situation where like, well, I guess it also depends on the contract. Like when you sign the contract before you're born, what you guys really agree to. What if you are a twin flame that's just supposed to show me certain things and then be on your way? Or it could be something to where we're going to be in union forever. Like, I think it just maybe depends on the contract. Now I'm
Like the
thinking
lead
about it.
contract, right? Before we
Yeah.
do you
No,
have
and that does
any
make a
thoughts on
lot of
that?
sense.
I'm sorry?
But yeah, and that does make a lot of sense, especially with like in this current time period. I feel like for sure, like it was more of like let me show you of
Hmm.
like who you need to become and like discover yourself as well. Because I feel like I never
Yeah.
really was in touch like fully with myself until recently.
What do you think, Linda? Do you have any thoughts on that? No? All right. Well, what if, guys, and I'm just throwing it out here because this is also another thought, right? What if we're pulled hardest towards something that our earliest wiring already knows, like, even when what it knows hurts, right? What if someone that's a little unavailable can feel more like the one rather than someone who just stays? Like, familiarity and safe are not the same thing, right?
Right.
Because we had mentioned, I think Liza mentioned last time, how we sometimes can we sometimes stay in a bad relationship because we're supposed to suffer, we're supposed to sacrifice in order for us to show that we love somebody, for example. So, what if it's something that is just like it reminds you of a, a family member? So your system or your wiring system automatically calls that home because you know it. And then you end up in a dysfunctional relationship because we end up mirroring our parents or the environment we were in, right?
Yep. Yep.
What do you guys think about that? You guys
I
are all like,
think in this,
"Dang."
I know you
I'm
hitting it
like,
today. I don't know.
You're like, "Why are you doing this to me, man?"
I
you
know,
confuse me more.
but I'm not feeling good, so I'm trying to think. Okay. I would say so it comes back to self, I feel like. I feel like when you are one to kind of recognize that you have certain patterns that came from childhood, we all see our parents as like the first role models of what things are supposed to be like, right? And it doesn't, I know for all of us, it's not like that. But I think for me, it took for me to kind of go through my self love journey, my spiritual awakenings were they were basically considered self love journeys. I've been on my own since my son's dad passed away. And I've done a lot of growth, a lot of learning, self reflection within myself to where it was just like, I don't know how to explain it. The more the spiritual awakenings would happen, I would get more, like I said, sensitive to the veil. I was more getting more intuitive. So the more I kept going within, the more I would realize I have certain gifts that I've never realized I had. I have certain dynamics that I think play roles in perfect scenarios when they weren't the entire time. Like a lot of exposing happened. And that's where I kind of learned, like, okay, certain things that I saw growing up were not normal. That it comes back to where you're kind of looking at from you. So when you come into this connection, it's always good to kind of go in already having that self love thought process or like you've already done the work basically. I always recommend that. Like that's why anytime like, people break up or they go through things, stay by yourself for a little bit. Why do people jump into relationships like back to back to back? Stay by yourself, even if it takes some years. Cause you know what? Even a year, even a year wasn't enough for me to heal. Like I needed to go within for years for me to get to where I'm at now. So imagine the inner work that you can get before you meet this person. Then you can tell, okay, and you are already by that point, you've had already things figured out and fixed to where you're not able to repeat those cycles and patterns in the new relationship.
100%, dude, because I am
100%.
guilty. I am guilty of
Yeah,
being those people that jumped into relationships a little too quick. And you know what ended up happening? Self-sabotage.
exactly, bro. Exactly.
Because you end up worse than how you started. You
Yes.
end up a little bit more lost in who am I? You know? And the thing is that somewhere we learn that closeness costs us something, right? Whether it leaves us learning that it's about the chase, or it's about choosing one step at a time, It's everything's a freaking choice, to be honest. And
It is.
that
Yeah.
with twin flames, trauma bond is a thing because you're seeing
Mm,
yourself, right? The twin flame is a reflection of yourself, all the things that it's going to start showing you all the things that you dislike about you and challenge you.
mm,
It's a mirror, right? So when you trauma bond and you have a twin flame, if you both are not in the same going the same direction, that's where I feel like it becomes a challenge and why most people have the perception or the idea that twin flames are not meant to be and that you're challenging and it's the fire within because it's going to bring out all the challenging parts of you, you know?
Right.
And unfortunately that's a real thing, I guess, you know, like for guys, for example, it's it's more of like a an exchange of pride.
I never thought about it like that.
What do you guys think?
I have a question. Do you think that men are like more capable of being the avoidant in the relationship than women? Like, would you think it's a gender thing?
No,
Personally, were you asking me? Personally, I think that men are really misunderstood. Men have their ways of expressing their emotions. And because we as female are very emotional, we expect men to express themselves the same way that we do. But men have like these bigger shoes to fill, you know, they're already born. I like to say that men are born with their work boots on because they're already born having all these expectations, you know, falling on them. And one of those things is if you cry, you're not a man. You know, everything falls down as like if you have emotions, you can't men can't even I feel like some men can't express themselves with their friends because of that. And I don't think that they're avoidant. I think they're very straight to the point, but we just want it decorated in another term or in another tone or in another, you know, in another way, in some way whatsoever, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that makes sense. Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I don't think necessarily. Well, I don't think that being an avoidant falls like in any type of like gender stereotype or anything like that. I've noticed a lot of females being avoidant, even when it comes not only in like dynamics of relationship, like romantic relationship, but like parental wise and like I don't know. This is based on like my personal experience, but it also depends on the culture because yes, like in this society, it's like yes, men are told like don't hold your like don't express yourself because you're seen as weak. But in some cultures, and then I also feel like in some, depending on like like your your parents' way of thinking as well. Even as like the firstborn like daughter, even just being the firstborn, like, being a firstborn daughter, it's like we are also told to not be emotional, not this and that. Like, I don't know if you guys seen this. It made me think of this movie, Spanglish, where the mom's like one tear only, just one tear, and like you're not allowed to cry basically after that.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't know.
so true. I think it is a culture thing. I don't want to make the conversation about culture, but I see what you're talking about. Yeah, there's certain things, and I feel like women as well, when they are brought up specifically in Hispanic families, say like we're, off by ourselves with a child, you're supposed to tough it out. You know what I'm saying? Like you're supposed to just deal with it and tough it out or whatever, and then that's it. But it's not that easy. It's not like that for a lot of people. People deal with things a lot different. And I think with men too, they have that stereotype where it's like you can't have any emotions or I'm gonna think you're weak. You can't lead, you can't do nothing for me. That's terrible. Like consider that men, I mean, they have a lot of pressure already. Wouldn't you want them to have the right mental capacity already? The mental health has to be there, especially for the man. Like you said, they just go through too much as a man already in general. So it's just easier to have that outlet regardless. And then they turn around and say men are killing themselves or suicide rates are up. I saw that on Instagram, I think. Suicide rates are going up because men are not talking about it. They're not allowed to. It's terrible.
Yeah. I think it's one of the primary issues of domestic violence, to be honest. The fact that you can't express your emotions. What do you think, Linda? Do you have any thoughts on that? I agree. As
Yeah.
someone who lived it, I agree. And it's crazy because if you look at it both ways, familiarity or familiarity isn't really a red flag, isn't automatically going to be a red flag. It's sometimes just resonance, right? Where it's whether it's you have to sit with it and say and question yourself, is this something that I lived and that I'm comfortable with? Or is it something that I'm just really vibing with? You know, is it something that I recognize? Because past life and soul recognition, it pretty much gives the language of the nervous system. Like it makes it romanticizes. I think that's what Liza used last time. It romanticizes
Yeah.
the nervous system event, which makes the pool feel like it was chosen by the stars instead of it was shaped by your past events, right? Which actually
Right.
there's a research by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, which is the attachment work on how the ancients and the avoidant pairing is really the chaser and the runner at the same time without the mystical quote on it, right? We're pretty much recreating the emotional environment that we were raised in because it's the one that we're familiar with, the one that we can read, and it because we're familiar with it, it's a recognition of pattern, not necessarily the person. So think about it. Did they feel like home or is it like the house that you grew up in? When does missing them because there's also this other theory, right? Where you go through the whole moment of detaching yourself, right? What happens when you miss them? Like, what does it do in your body when it's purging or when it's like the ascension symptoms? Like what is this, whatever spiritual name you want to call it for the withdrawal of not being with this person?
I think I experienced it, the withdrawal, while I was with the person. So once I was no longer with this person, it didn't do anything to me. And
Maybe it's our energy that does it to you, you know?
Yeah. What do you guys think? You guys
I'm
are like
literally thinking.
what I mean with this is like the after pain. Like what happens when you end up not working out? What is the cutoff or the unpredictable reward when when the wanting to be with this person is harder right before it fades away, right before, let's say for example, when it's, let's say, the 3 a.m. spike that isn't the universe testing you. It's mainly the system just purging itself. Like, the body ache, the pain, the truth of everything else.
Well, are you talking about like your twin flame or just any relationship in general that has been illicit? Because to me, correct me if I'm wrong, because to me, when I think of twin flame, it's not necessarily like, oh, you're forever person because, like you said, like they might be teaching you a lesson. But when I compare that, I don't think of like, how do I explain it? I don't feel that they are because it's different. It's like hmm, it's a very different feeling than any like other relationships you've had. So
Yeah.
a lot of time was like different struggle was differentiating that. And it's gonna sound really bad, and I don't mean this in a cruel way or anything, but when it comes to romantic relationships, I have not physically been one with my twin flame. Like my exes, even my gonna be ex-husband, I wouldn't say is one.
Mm, that makes sense.
You know what's crazy? I think so the twin flame dynamics, I think they differ. I think like it's unique for every situation, every person, every union. But I kind of look at it like that too. Like it's either someone who's supposed to expose what you're doing, what you're not doing of or lacking or whatever, and then y'all part ways, or you guys end up friends or however. Or it can be a situation where they're like in union. When you guys are in union, you feel like this person is already going to be, I guess what kind of gives you that validation is if that person, like, say you guys are in union, how you know it's the one is if it's someone who's basically what you prayed for, who's, if they listen, authentic. Like there are all these things, right? And once you find those qualities in someone and it's consistent, it's something to where you don't force it. They're naturally like that. And you guys naturally vibe already. I feel like that is already an automatic green flag that you guys are meant to be together, or you guys are meant to be in some sort of union, even if it's not forever or for the moment, whatever. Like you guys are supposed to be like show each other something. And I think depends on the lesson, what you guys want to get out of it, even with going back to the soul contracts. Is this someone I picked for a union? Or is this you really don't really know until you're in it for real, I think. And you're just living it day by day. And then you're kind of just going through the motions. And then over time, maybe you just kind of like, but I feel like I kind of instantly already know. And I don't know at the same time. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not gonna put my what's the word? Like all my eggs in one basket. I'm still gonna live my life. I'm still gonna be me. I'm still gonna focus on myself. But I'm going with the flow. If things like if I were to come into union with that person and things were like, perfectly fine and things were great, I'm gonna assume that's just my person. I think you can tell. I think you can tell if someone's meant to be there for a lesson or not.
It for sure. I mean, like,
Only through my experience.
no,
No,
and
it
I
makes
would say
sense.
like my experience, I would have to agree with you just in the sense that like we're not currently in this how do I say without complicating? In this
It's complicated.
in this 3D or this dimension, we're not together, but it's like I know we are like I know how I like I don't know, I know what they've showed me throughout the years, and it's different when how do I ooh that's why I asked that question last time when I was like, do you see them as like someone that what was the question? It was like something regarding them being your equal. Like, is that a criteria?
Well, yeah,
That's why I asked that because to me, that's how I feel. The best way I can explain it, it's like my equal.
my equal, right? Like you feel they're your equal.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I don't
You'll
feel like
you'll
I'm
know.
worshiping them. I don't feel like, it feels neutral
Yeah, feels that's the perfect word. It feels mutual.
in
And
my
I,
experience.
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
I did, and it just went away. Okay. Yeah, like I think one like in my experience, I knew that the person wasn't like forever. So I was like, okay, like so then what is the lesson? And it just kept going into like the same situations. And then but once I realized what my lesson was, it was like, okay, that was my lesson and I can let go. And it was hard because like I said, I was like still with the person, but they didn't even notice that like when I just let go.
Yeah.
And then by the time they realized it, it was
What I meant to ask when like missing what missing them felt like, and I love that you guys gave both sides of it because I mean it can go both ways. It can go like, and I want to clarify because I personally would sometimes get confused with which one was the strongest, a soulmate or a twin flame, right?
Mm,
In reality, like the separation is literally this, right? A soulmate is the lesser love. It's peace that gets like demoted to just soulmate, right? Comfortable,
yeah.
but not really your destiny. Now, the mirror means you're the same. They reflect what is unhealed within you so that you do your work. So we're mirrors, and then this is the misread conception. We're mirrors so the friction proves we're one. No, it flips every single fight into evidence and every incompatibility into a spiritual assignment. The mirror is supposed to send you back to yourself, but then we misread it, and we use pretty much both sides, right? We either choose, okay, there's always going to be one that says, okay, I got to fix this because I really want to be with this person. And then there's this other person that's like, no, like I have to chase them and I have to undermine myself because of this. And the other person is usually like trying to get them to see what is here. And that's where like that friction builds, right?
Yeah.
Because the person, or let's say, for example, sometimes distance doesn't mean that it's an ending,
Mm.
because it's a stage with the reunion that is promised on the other side. If you think about it, the breakup is not complete. A person isn't really grieving, they're waiting, right? And they sometimes wait for years because there's no words in that relationship for there to be an ending for it. And that's like the ambiguous loss trap, right? Where we put a spiritual seal on it and the vocabulary pretty much deletes the exit. And this is going to like past terms, right? The twin flame in the 1970s was pretty much put into this ascension teaching where it wasn't even about romance. It was about a soulmate versus a twin flame, ranking its essential or its essentiality when the internet was barely created. So people are organizing their whole lives around a framework that is probably younger than our parents, believing that it's older than Rome. So think about it. All of this, it converts pain into proof and peace into a consolidation price. So what we do is, in guys, for example, when you feel it in your body, because when you're missing them, were you missing them or were you missing the not knowing? Because
Hmm.
it can go into like the purging. Let's say if it doesn't work out and you think it's the end and everything is over, but maybe you guys work things out and maybe you had to separate. Maybe you had to feel that pain so that you can grow, because that's the type of pain that's going to make you want to work on yourself, right?
Yeah.
So what happens in guys, they turn this into, it goes both ways, right? A female can go and be really emotional about it and a guy can call it nothing, but he can still have vocabularies for it. He drowns himself in the gym. He ends up drinking. He ends up being a player, or he ends up just withdrawing. But it's still consuming because you still want to focus on something else, right? And there's actually a theory where Naomi Eisenberg, back in 2003, she found that social rejection lights up the brain the same way physical pain does.
Mm.
And your
That's
body
very interesting.
isn't being dramatic. It's actually the it's pretty much it's registering it as an actual injury. And whenever, let's say for example, there's Ronald Lebant, who pretty much talked about how boys get trained to pretty much not name any feelings at all. They have no vocabulary for the pain that they're feeling, so they end up being consumed in rage. They end up being consumed in addiction. So think about it. What if it doesn't work out because you're the one that's not doing the work?
It won't work out because you're not doing the work.
It
That's
won't.
how I feel. I feel like I'm always gonna say this, like, please go to self-love before you get into a relationship, because that, right, she's saying it's gonna happen, it's gonna fall. It's just gonna be like, damn, I didn't do none of this, and this was supposed to be like a little perfect thing for me, and now I can't even match up to that person. I have to keep up. Why do that to yourself when you can just when you have the time to just do that self-love work, inner work?
Exactly.
Yeah,
We're tethered to pretty much thinking that we need this closure, right? And that somebody is going to give you this closure. The
right.
taboo thing, guys, is that men are made believe that they are going to be, they're told to open up and then they're punished for it, pretty much.
Yep, you're weak.
Exactly.
Terrible.
Silence becomes the safest thing in the room, in the house, and everywhere. And what's really happening is that culture is what holds that door shut for them. And then they ask, well, why did this man do this?
But
And this goes both ways, you know? Because
Yeah.
females, we end up sometimes giving away our body because we feel like that's the only way that we can have some sort of acknowledgement, some sort of
Validation.
validation. Exactly. What do you guys?
Seeking love in all it's well, it's seeking love in all the wrong places. For women, I think that's kind of the case when I see that happen. And then with men, it's like what you said, it's like they're not given an outlet to vibe, they're not given an outlet to even express themselves, mainly because I would say the father figure is taught that same thing. You have to show no emotions, and that it's like a generational pattern that's not being broken. And it has to end with you. I know for me, I saw a lot of generational patterns that I thought were normal. And when I became a parent, it ended with everything ended with me. Everything. Like my son does not even know the a type of life I knew. Like he has no idea. And I'm showing my son self-regulation, express your emotions. And there's certain people in my family who are like manly men and they're like, let me take him to the forest, like let's do this and let's do that. And granted, yeah, I agree he should do some stuff like that to get that aggression out or whatever the case. There's other ways. Me personally, I don't want my son around guns. So that's not gonna that's not gonna fly right now. But there's other ways to express yourself, and my son's going to learn that. He's going to learn how to be a gentleman. He's going to learn how to self-regulate. He's going to be in tune with his emotions. He's going to be a provider. He's going to be a leader. I'm instilling all of these things in him because I didn't get that growing up. And I wasn't shown that growing up until I became a parent myself. So once I became a parent, that's when losing my son's dad and becoming a parent at the same time, a first time parent, that was a double-edged sword that it just went hand in hand with my healing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because, like, no matter how you see it, I'm a lesbian. No, I'm a but I still agree that you still need a male figure in your life. Why? Because a man can teach you how to be strong without using rage,
Right. A
diplomacy.
healthier way. Yep.
Like, there was somebody that I saw on like this hearing where, all these like, where people get the whole ice raids and all these things. And there was a man, or there was a kid who was speaking on behalf of his dad. And he said, my dad is somebody that when he has an issue with someone, he's like, he has people here vouching for him that were his enemies. And all he did was say, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee and see why we don't like each other.
Mm. Why not do it like that?
Exactly. But we are so worried about what it costs us, right? Pretty much what we're being handed is the fact that we feel like we deserve somebody to, like, because we ended up undermining ourselves, we want the other person to do the same, right?
What do you
And it's not gonna,
mean?
like, whenever you're the chaser and things end, you feel like you want that closure because you feel like, well, because I deserve it. I freaking went through all this pain. But is it really that? Because sometimes, what are you gonna do when I want to ask this straight up to
Mhm.
you girls? Let's say that your soulmate or your twin flame, I'm sorry, finally says what you're waiting for them to say. What happens when they say it, or what happens when they never say it? What do you do with that? How do you even know what is let's say a man actually said the real thing to you. Let's say he says, I don't know, let's say Diamond, he asks you, or your twin flame comes to you and says all the things that you want him to say. Is it going to land as strength, or is it going to land as, what is up with this guy?
Definitely not the second part. I think in my case, it's gonna be like a relief. Like, okay, I wasn't crazy. I feel the same way. That's if he were to tell me like what I wanted to hear. But if he completely went silent, like forever, never really came back around and didn't tell me nothing, I think I've already gotten to the point where I've already have gone so long without communication. It's not gonna make or break me. Yes, it's gonna be like, damn. But am I gonna like dwell on it? No. Am I gonna be in my feelings about it? Maybe for a little bit, but it's because I'm human. And at the end of the day, that self-love, it comes back in and I'm like, I'm gonna be good either way. I've been good this entire time. And I've had my own thing going on. Someone, whether it's a twin flame, a soulmate, whoever, anybody really, it can go down to friendships, relationships, people in my family. I am so secure and whole with myself. It's not gonna make or break me. I'm still gonna live my life. You know what I'm saying? That's so important to be like that because if you end up going a different direction, you're gonna crash out.
It's like we end up getting a grip of what's unfinished, like a stronger grip rather than what's already finished. And that's why we end up staying in this open loop, right? Because
Yeah,
if you really think about it, right now you said we're human, right? Wanting to understand is human. So
yeah,
we end up trapping ourselves in making our peace or making our peace depend on the fact that there's a participation from the other party. And understanding that the silence from the other party doesn't mean you have to wait on it.
right. Don't wait on it, please.
Exactly. And I know I'm talking a lot, but I do want to. I love bringing out facts, guys, because this isn't just our personal experiences. This is like things that we went through, and personally, in my experience, I went through it, and then I researched it, and then bam, I was right. So there's actually several researches, research documents that talk about this. Like there's one that talks about there's Pauline Boss who talks about the ambiguous loss where grief with no clear ending is probably the hardest one because it means that there's nothing to close and the closure has to be your own. You have to give it to yourself, right?
Exactly.
And then there's also when we talk about men, there's Nobi Way's work with where she works with many children, right? And she found out that many of them have deep secrets, deep secret sharing best friends up until their teen years. And that closeness gets recorded as a weakness or as unmanly. And then they let it go. And by that time, he's grown. And many men really don't have a way to practice with their words. And then here we are, and this applies both ways because there's females who are born without the mother side, you know, and they're born with just a dad who doesn't express himself so much. So then she's caught up in the same thing. It goes both ways. I feel like there shouldn't be a gender in saying like, what do you think that man or female react like this? No, we all are
Right.
humans and we all
Yeah.
have feelings and there shouldn't be an undermining. It's just that society has made it like our culture itself has made it seem like there's something wrong when you have feelings.
Yes.
Exactly. It's
Yes.
exactly. And it doesn't matter what gender, like, because it's like if a woman reacts to something, it's too emotional. If a man does, it's like you're not man enough. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's
Mm-mm.
expected of a woman, but yet it's criticized. And then of a man, it's you're not supposed to. And if they do, it's like you're still criticized, you know? So it's just,
Either way, you'll get
yeah.
criticized, you know?
Right. And in the end, it's like a feeling, regardless, right? It's a
Hmm.
Yeah.
feeling. It's the feeling of needing somebody or the feeling of having that strong connection, but there's so much friction that you don't understand why. And then you really want it to work, but then it doesn't work. And it's a pull back and forth. But what about you? Like, who watches you? Like, when you stop being the one, because there's going to be a time when you stop being the chaser, right? A connection can change us so much. And it's not a problem, guys, but it's like what we do with it. Did we allow it to consume us? Because in society, we romanticize losing yourself in someone. I do anything for love. But I want to.
Literally
I don't remember that song, but yeah. And it's like self erasure is sold as like, oof, the most
empowering.
yes.
Yes.
But it's like, I don't know, bro, because what you're doing is you're holding this whole perception of this perfect relationship, and in it, when it's gone, who are you? What do you like? Who were you before you met them? And what do you say, or what version exists when you finally have a chance to say anything?
And then
You
you're
know
talking
what?
about the twin flame. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
No, and I'm saying like you're talking about the twin flame, like when you say that.
I'm sorry?
And you're talking about the twin flame when you're saying that.
Yeah, because the twin flame is going to be. So get this, guys. I want you guys to see, because the honest of this thing is that a twin flame is explained more like fire. A soulmate is peace, right? But a twin flame
Mhm.
is going to bring out your green hairs because you're dealing with yourself. And if you think about it, guys, the things that we hate or dislike about, hate is a strong word, but I really, really, really don't like, no, but the things that we don't like about other people are usually the things that we dislike and cringe over within ourselves.
Hmm.
That's
Literal
why they're the
reflection.
mirror. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just two people trained differently. One was taught to follow, the other one was taught to outrun it or to be running, right? And there's nobody that's winning.
exactly.
That's why
Just
it's
sitting
so
here.
intense. That's why the twin flame is so fucking intense, because it's gonna
I need to know.
it's the freaking dark side, you know? Like,
Yes.
it's gonna get everything out of you because you're dealing with yourself, baby bird,
Yeah.
you know?
I gotta share something. So my medium, Katrina, I love her. Gonna get a reading from her very soon. But I found her when my son's dad passed away. And I told you this off camera. Like, I was already raised into a Christian based household. Things had to go, God, it was I was sheltered. I was all these things. And when I met my son's dad, he, so prior to him, I had a couple relationships where they were just terrible, toxic, whatever. And then he ended up being the same thing. I was dating the same energy in different people in these relationships. And with my son's dad, I was with him, I want to say 4.5 years now. Yeah, it was 4.5 years. And that relationship was toxic as well. I'm going to be very transparent with my son as well, because there was good times and there was definitely bad times. A lot of experiences that domestic violence, and like a lot of sleeping in the car with him. Like, he was homeless at one point. I was one of those girls that would literally go through the ringer with my man. Like, I was that ride or die. Hell yeah, I was that. I had a home to go to, but I chose to stay with this man in his car. Well, it was my car. There was a lot of things that I did that were so stupid, putting things in my name, financial, just running my money, giving him my money. I'm telling you, it was really one of those toxic relationships where I gave him everything. I was living my life through him. And I glorify him and I say all these things when he's gone now, because I want people to remember the good things about him. But there was also, I'm not going to be sugarcoating the bad neither. So with that being said, I bring up my medium because when he passed away, I had my readings with her. She told me that my son's dad was a soulmate, but he was a karmic soulmate. And that was a literal, like, okay, relationship. Okay, this is what you've been dealing with this entire time. And then you ask, not to, I don't know if I want to say that out loud, but there's certain people in my family that I considered like men. The whole time it was not the case. So I was already wanting my partner to be a certain somebody because I thought that was the right way to be, when it was really, no, no, I don't want a 50-50 guy. I don't want to, I don't want these things going on. So yeah, she told me that was my soulmate, that I was going to be in love one day. It's going to come years from now, but I will find love again. This person's going to be my person. And when the twin flame thing started happening, I didn't realize this person, I didn't label him my twin flame until honestly this year, because I've always had a thing for him, and I always kind of like checked on the side, whatever, all these years. But it was something about this year, specifically around like March, April. I told you about that, where things got really intense with the situation where it was getting to where it is now. I'd get dreams, nudges, experiences, like in all these downloads. It just right when May or March, I'm sorry, March happened, that's when all these things started trickling down. And I remember last year around this time in May, I decided that I wanted to move out of my apartment. I wanted to get a new home. I wanted to be ready for love. I want all these things that I've been not experiencing. I'm ready for it. And now that the timeline I'm in it, I'm physically in it now. I'm in my new home. I'm in my new job. I'm in all these new things. The one thing that's missing is that person, but I'm not going to say he's missing because I am whole, but he's just an addition. He could be an addition to my fucking life. So, you know what I'm saying? He could be that.
Yeah.
But he could that's where I kind of started remembering her message. I'm like, is he the one that that she told me that I'm finding love in? Especially while so that's what I'm saying. Either way it goes, like if I find out, I'll find out. If I don't, I don't. Either way, I'm gonna be fine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it took me all this time to build my self-love to where I'm okay. I'm content either way.
I,
That's where it comes down to.
I love that you said that like you were having the same relationships in different people, because that's one of the things that I always talk about, how we're in a loop, right? And
Exactly.
each time you learn something about yourself, and in my experience, I felt like I was dating myself in different personalities, in different time, like in different versions of myself. Like the different stages that I was in, and it's like it was a challenge, until until it broke me. I mean, it really did, because that's when I was like, it was like it was the loss. It's usually going to be a loss, right? It was the loss. It wasn't somebody that passed away. It was just the divorce itself. The fact that you noticed yourself in how you participating and how you participated in the undoing of, and seeing yourself and knowing that, like, don't, if you didn't want to start all over again, it's like the failure part, like realizing, oh, okay, I have a stable place. And then, now, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean, and I want to reiterate on this, because my mom and I were having a conversation about this, how she said, you're always talking about the past, like if you're still stuck in it, like you're still hurting for it. No, I am grateful for the past, which is a
Mm,
difference. I know myself that I'm not stuck in the past, but I'm not stupid. I know for a
right.
fact that had it not been for any of those experiences, I would not be sitting here right now with you guys. I would have never met Linda. I would never have had any of the wisdom and knowledge and people that I have in my life now. And honestly, like, I would struggle all over again, like,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and I was probably like the worst side of the relationships all the time. I was the one that was getting in debt. I was the and it's like, now whenever I see myself in a situation that is like hard, I have to go back to those places and I have to talk about them, because I have to remind myself, hey, do you remember how you thought you weren't going to make it out of this one? And you did?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
That's how
If you're cocky as
bro,
fuck,
that's how
everything about me popping, got face, I got body, you name it. You gotta bring your Megan the Stallion out.
that's how I feel about the whole thing. I was just kind of like, damn, I forgot what you were talking about now.
You see, because we
What
were
did you just
vibing.
say?
We were talking about
I
how we
know.
need to be grateful for our experiences, because
Oh
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
shaped us.
So like like the version of me 6 years ago wouldn't have agreed with that. I would have been like,
Me neither.
oh my God, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want it like this. This was not supposed to happen. We were gonna get married. We were gonna have a family more. You know what I'm saying? Like this was gonna be it. And I felt at the time that I wasn't mad at God. I never was mad at him. But I was just like, why? Why would you rip this away from me and my son, especially because he's just born. Well, my son was a year when he passed away. He had just turned a year a month before.
Trouble, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was really for a few years, the first 2 years, I was like, "Oh, my family, I didn't have it, Now I'm like, "You know what? I wouldn't trade it. I would go through it again." You know what I'm saying? Because it brought me to where I'm at now,
Yeah.
and it's gonna lead me to where I'm meant to be going forward. Not to say that his death is like the best thing that happened to me. What happened was he died. I grieved over it, and I ended up having a spiritual awakening, rebirth, all these things in one, and it's just continued ever since.
And yeah, and I'm sorry that you guys, that her and I over here talking a lot, but I,
You guys
the
are good.
the
Yeah,
ADHD does not let me before I forget.
I'm tuned in. I'm like,
tuned in.
But I love that you mentioned the fact about how death is not that it's the best thing, but like death, honestly, we need to stop being scared of it, because the moment that you accept, death does not choose. Let me tell you, it does not care about what you're wearing. It doesn't care about how much
Right.
money you got in the bank account. And it comes to you many times in your lifetime. And it doesn't necessarily mean the physical. She teaches us how to plant, how to harvest. Why? Because she's going to teach you to remove all the old nonsense so that you can make room for all the new things and plant new seeds, because you are the soil, you are the root, and you are the seed. She teaches you, she's the one that is with you during that dark road of the death of ego, right? And I love it because on our next episode, I really want to talk about Santa Muerte. And I think that is one of the journeys that we really need to discuss, because that is a journey that turns us whether into our true self or into the version of us that is fearful of God and not necessarily owning the fact that you are God, that you are part of God. And I love it because the more we talk, it's like all of us are the same person in different timelines and different versions. And it's like
I've
one,
said that.
yeah. And it's like you understand, like these are soulmates, because these are parts of you that are in other bodies and other timelines. And when it comes to twin flames, you have you're meeting your match, which
Mhm.
is yourself.
Mhm.
And that's the
Mhm.
whole purpose in life, to find your true self, because the moment that you see yourself in person, you start to have self-compassion.
I agree with that.
And that's when you stop seeing faces and you start seeing energies.
Energy.
That's when you
Yeah.
start seeing yourself and understanding that you need to be patient with yourself, that you can't be rushing into everything, and that the
Mhm.
worst pain, that when something falls down so hard, like in your situation, for example, and I don't want to undermine any situation, because your pain is as great as mine, and it doesn't have to be a human that I lost. It could be, and I'm not trying to undermine, because society is going to think, oh my gosh, she's comparing him. But I lost a pet before the beginning of this. And let me tell you, that changed my life. It was the beginning of this whole journey, and it sealed the ending of a chapter, you know? So the loss, it's different universes, but we are in a society that we are based on ranking, right? Well, this hurts more, so you have more.
Yeah.
No, you're your own self. Find your own self. Don't lose yourself in other people, because the whole purpose is for you to want, like you mentioned right now, you want your son to have all these principles. And I think it's amazing. And in order for you to be able to teach him, you can't sit him down and tell him, hey, this is how it's going to be. You have to do it yourself,
Right. You gotta
so
teach
that
them.
he sees it and he says, oh, my mama always did this, you know? And that's like one of the things that is hard for us, as like for myself, with my mom, like I never thought I was going to talk about my dad, loving my dad. Like me and my dad were arch nemesis, we were like, you know, freaking enemies. And now it's like the man is there more often than he has ever been now that he passed away. And I have like the best, and people are going to be like, oh yeah, you're delusional. No, I'm not delusional, because I've had conversations with him. And I can feel when he's around, and things, it's like just be more aligned with yourself, and people are going to discredit it because they haven't experienced it. That's why I'm 100%
Yeah.
only talk about your experience. We're always consumed by assumptions
Or
opinions
what we read.
or what we read and think that, oh, that's the word. Bird is the word. Yes, it is, but not what you read. It's like let it mean whatever it means to you because you
Yeah.
lived it, not because you read it somewhere.
It's like what Liza said. She was saying just that last week about romanticizing and the like seeing things on the internet and they can change your perception on things and make you think a certain way if you let it.
What do you guys think? That
Yes,
and I
please
were like
talk.
over here like serious, and you guys are like,
No, I just like I don't know, I got into like a deep dive because I'm like I don't really want to like go into too much detail about my personal like thing with my twin flame, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like, like I wonder if this is like a very unique situation just due to the fact that they're not like here currently in this dimension,
hmm
and like we never, how do I say this? Uh, we never talked in person, but I did feel a connection, like, you know what I mean? Like that connection never left. Like it started, I want to say it started at like, I don't know, I was really young. And it's like, it's still, like, so it's like, I know what I know, but it's like, dang, I wonder if anybody would know what to call it or put into words. I don't know.
It's like the energy. You're feeling that energy.
Yeah,
hmm
it's never left.
Energy is going to be, yeah, it never left. Energy is going to be like your main thing.
we are more than our physical bodies, right?
Hmm.
What do you think, Linda? Linda's like very pensive today.
It's chilling.
Yeah, she's like, I'm vibing here,
Yeah.
and I think that it's. I agree with you on that, Liza, because it's more than like more than what words can say, you know? Like, for example, we were talking about how Linda and I met and we didn't even have any type of connection, but it's just like downloads that you get, you know?
Right. You just instantly knew.
And then whenever you end up talking, it's like, no way, which I want to bring up. I don't know if it's been a thing for you guys, but electricity has been flickering all over the place, which happens commonly whenever, apparently, it happens commonly when you're going through this because in my experience, it seems like your energy is just all over the place, you know? And there's been a lot of I feel like this is for another episode, but I want to talk about the experience with lightnings and I want to talk about Santa Muerte because I think we went a little bit longer this time. But do you guys have anything else to add? Because I love this topic. I love that we mentioned Santa Muerte. And it seems like we started with the romanticizing of like the partner, but you see how it ends up being with you.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I
It
am.
starts with you, ends with you. That's crazy.
You know how, like you said, like you think like, but I'm supposed to be with this person, and you're like aferrado or whatever, right? Like I understand it, but like in my experience, I guess it was like I was so like no, like I knew it wasn't gonna work out, but I wasn't ready to end it because I was like, no, like I haven't learned shit. Like what do I need to learn? Like like I know it's like I knew I wasn't for her, but I knew that I hadn't learned what I needed to learn and then like I guess that's how I got my closure. Like I didn't need to explain anything or whatever, whatever. It was like nice.
Yeah.
I got my own
Some
closure, peace with myself, and
Mhm.
goodbye.
sometimes you don't need that closure. Sometimes it's just it is what it is.